Chapter 2380. Ahem. Well, it was an accident. Yes, it was an accident. I don't know what happened exactly. In short, I owe you a favor. I came to the Fascinated Canyon to repay this favor. The little girl said. Her previous behavior and what she said just now didn't match at all. Yang Hongwu laughed when he heard that. However, one thing was for sure. This little girl should know him. What's your name? Yang Hongwu continued. Yang Hongwu felt a sense of closeness to this little girl. Moreover, Yang Hongwu didn't sense any malice from her. Lu Yu and Zi Xintong were also very surprised. Zi Xintong said, "Ah Wu, could this little girl be your illegitimate daughter?" Yang Hongwu didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he heard that. He said, "What illegitimate daughter? Don't talk nonsense. I think she looks like it." At this time, Lu Yu also spoke up. "Who's his illegitimate daughter? Don't talk nonsense." The little girl said, "My name is Long Qingqing. Although I'm somewhat related to him, I'm not his illegitimate daughter. Don't talk nonsense. Otherwise, I'll get angry. If I get angry, it'll be super scary." As she said that, she even pretended to be angry. The three of them were amused when they saw that. They had to admit that this little girl was really very likable. "All right, let's not talk about it. Little girl, where are you from?" Lu Yu said at this time. "Don't call me little girl. I'm not little anymore. Also, where I'm from has nothing to do with you. In short, this time, I'm here to repay a favor. After that, I'll leave." Long Qingqing said. Yang Hongwu heard that and said, "All right, Long Qingqing, right? What favor do you want to repay me? Why do you want to repay it?" "Of course, it's in the Fascinated Canyon. This time, you're going to the Fascinated Canyon for an important matter. You want to gain the recognition of the 13 divine realms and become the master of the 13 divine realms, right?" Long Qingqing looked at Yang Hongwu and said, "However, you have a powerful enemy in this divine canyon. Yes, it's your sworn enemy. His current strength is much stronger than yours. You're definitely not his match. If you fight him, you won't be able to contend against him. If you're careless, you might even endanger your life." When Yang Hongwu heard this, he was very surprised. He could tell that this Long Qingqing did not have any ill intentions towards him. However, what made Yang Hongwu very curious was how she knew about this situation. Did she really come here to help him? If what she said was true, and Zitian was so powerful, she was just a great Dao master. Her strength was far inferior to his. Even if she went to the Fascinated Canyon, she would not be of any help to him. Yang Hongwu did not believe that she could deal with Zitian, especially such a powerful Zitian. "How do you know about this? Moreover, I'm very curious. Since you know that my enemy is so powerful, how are you going to help me?" "You're not strong enough, right?" Yang Hongwu said. "Yes, I'm not strong enough to deal with that person. But what about it? I can buy you some time, enough for you to gain control of the 13 divine realms. Once you gain control of the 13 divine realms, it won't be a big problem to deal with that person. Even if you're still not his match and can't kill him, you should be able to contend with him." Long Qingqing said confidently. "Buy me some time? Do you know who my enemy is? He's not an ordinary person. If I'm not wrong, his strength is now at the level of an invincible overlord, or even stronger. He's not as simple as an ordinary universe overlord. Even if his strength is suppressed in the Fascinated Canyon, he's not someone that a great Dao master like you can resist. I'm afraid you can't buy me some time." Yang Hongwu was more and more curious about the little girl's background. Originally, Yang Hongwu wanted the little girl to be the master of Demon Wei in his common people's great world, but now it seemed that it was not suitable. "Isn't your enemy that Zitian? That's all you're capable of. A Zitian, TSK, you can't even kill him. It's embarrassing enough. Now you're being suppressed. Really, I don't want to talk about you anymore. If I didn't owe you a favor, I wouldn't even want to see you. It's embarrassing just looking at you." Long Qingqing said with a look of disdain, as if knowing Yang Hongwu and owing him a favor was something shameful. Yang Hongwu was speechless when he heard that. He was despised, and he was despised by a little girl. Zi Xintong and Lu Yu couldn't help laughing when they heard that. It was rare to see Yang Hongwu in such a situation. He was actually ridiculed by a little girl to the point that he couldn't speak. It was too rare. "All right, Long Ching, right? Since you said you're going to help me deal with the problem and help me gain control of the 13 divine regions, then let's go now. Long Ching didn't want to explain her background, and Yang Hongwu didn't force her. At least, one thing was certain. Although Long Ching's background was mysterious, she didn't have any evil intentions. She might really be here to help him. Maybe she was the person behind her. And this guy's surname was Long. Maybe he was Yinglong's subordinate? He didn't know where Yinglong had gone and hadn't returned yet. He had many enemies, and it was said that they were all very powerful. Yang Hongwu didn't know what the situation was like. From Long Ching's point of view, she wasn't sure if Long Ching had anything to do with Yinglong. For Yang Hongwu, there were many things that couldn't be explained or understood, so there was no need for him to spend time and effort to figure it out. Right now, entering the fascinated canyon and gaining control of the divine regions was the key. At this moment, after hearing Long Ching's words, Yang Hongwu was certain of one thing, and that was the fascinated canyon was the key to gaining control of the entire divine regions. If it wasn't for this, Zetian wouldn't have entered the canyon. After all, a person like Zetian wouldn't act rashly. He wouldn't go to places that had nothing to do with him, especially places that weren't of any help to him. He absolutely wouldn't go there. The Zetian of today was no longer the Zetian of the mortal world. The Zetian Devil Lord now did everything with a sense of propriety and purpose. Well, okay, I can speed up. However, the two of them are a little troublesome. They need your power to protect them. Without your Dharma power, it will be too slow for them to reach the canyon. However, if you use your Dharma power to protect them all the way, it will consume too much Dharma power. It won't be good for you when you reach the canyon. Long Ching added, you can refine 2 talismans to help them. Talismans? Yang Hongwu said, what kind of talismans can be used in the fascinated canyon and ignore the laws of the crystal bridge? Chapter 2381. The Sky-Stealing, Sun-Swapping Talisman. Long Ching said, Sky-Stealing, Sun-Swapping Talisman? What Sky-Stealing, Sun-Swapping Talisman? Yang Hongwu had heard of the Sky-Stealing, Sun-Swapping Talisman. However, Yang Hongwu had never heard of the Sky-Stealing, Sun-Swapping Talisman. There was such a powerful talisman that could easily deceive the laws of heaven and earth and the laws of the fascinating canyon. If it was possible, then this talisman was really powerful. It was not impossible for Yang Hongwu to create such a talisman. However, it would take time. It was definitely not something that could be done in a short time. He estimated that it would take 10 days to half a month to do it. However, in such a short time, a quarter of an hour, 2 hours, or even a day might not be able to do it. Yang Hongwu did not have so much time to study such a talisman. I have never heard of this talisman. How can I refine it? It is almost impossible for me to refine such a so-called sky-stealing, sun-swapping talisman in such a short time. Yang Hongwu shook his head and said, I can tell you the refining method of this talisman. I have used sky-stealing, sun-swapping talisman. With such a talisman, you should be able to refine it, right? Long Ching said, a used talisman? Yang Hongwu smiled bitterly when he heard this. A talisman that had been used was just a remnant. The runes on it were all destroyed, so it was impossible to refine it. You think too highly of me. The runes on the talismans that have been used are all destroyed. Naturally, I have no way to refine it. Unless there is enough time. In that case, I may be able to do it. However, I don't have so much time to study such a talisman. Yang Hongwu kept shaking his head. I forgot to say that this talisman is actually complete. It's just that when it is used, the talisman's energy will be consumed. The runes on it are complete. In fact, if there is a talisman master who can replenish the talisman's energy, this talisman can still be used. Long Ching said, this is the talisman. As she said those words, Long Ching took out a talisman. That talisman was the sky-stealing, sun-swapping talisman. Merely, that talisman was dim and lusterless, as if it was about to shatter. Evidently, it had consumed an enormous amount of power. However, that talisman was still able to remain intact after being used. The person who had preserved it must have used some special method. As for replenishing the talisman's energy and using it again, the possibility of that was extremely slim. I believe that with this talisman, you should be able to refine more sky-stealing, sun-swapping talisman, right? Long Qingqing looked at Yang Hongwu. She seemed to know Yang Hongwu very well. Her tone surprised Yang Hongwu. If it's any other place with this talisman, there shouldn't be too much of a problem. However, the problem now is that we are on the Crystal Bridge. The Crystal Bridge in the Yearning Valley has special restrictions. Therefore, I'm not sure if I can refine this talisman here. Yang Hongwu still shook his head. In fact, Yang Hongwu was not completely confident. Although he could use his own spiritual power on the Crystal Bridge, it did not mean that he could easily refine talismans or even elixirs. It was not easy to refine talismans and elixirs. If it was that easy, why were there so few alchemists and talisman masters in the Great Thousand Void? No, you can do it. You definitely can. You will know this once you try. Long Qingqing said. All right, I will give it a try. For Yang Hongwu, it would not take too much time to give it a try. If he really succeeded, it would save him a lot of time and a lot of problems. Therefore, even if he failed, Yang Hongwu was still willing to give it a try. After all, if he succeeded, the benefits would be great. The sky-stealing, sun-swapping talisman that had lost its energy turned into powder after Yang Hongwu comprehended the talisman. It dissipated in the void and was completely destroyed. However, what surprised Yang Hongwu was that the refining method of this talisman seemed to be engraved in the depths of Yang Hongwu's mind after he looked at it. Moreover, the refining method of this talisman seemed to be from the same source as his. It was as if he had created it and refined it countless times. However, Yang Hongwu was sure that he had never refined such a talisman before. Even in his previous life, he should not have refined such a talisman. In his memory, there was absolutely no such talisman. At this moment, although he was very confused, he did not think about other things. He did not want to think so much. Time was tight at the moment. It would be better if he could refine the talisman as soon as possible. Ah Wu, do you want to believe the words of this little girl? Zi Xintong said at this time to Yang Hongwu. Even Lu Yu had the same expression and looked at Yang Hongwu. After all, this Long Qingqing was a stranger with a mysterious origin. Who knew if this little girl of unknown origin was an enemy or a friend? If she was an enemy, then it would be troublesome. As for friend, the possibility of this was actually very small. No one would pay a price to help a stranger. However, Yang Hongwu seemed to have a lot of trust in this little girl. This was also what worried the two girls. If Long Qingqing was an enemy, then her means and ability were really amazing. Although Yang Hongwu had many female confidants, in fact, Yang Hongwu generally did not trust others easily. Long Qingqing was really the first person who could gain Yang Hongwu's trust in such a short time. Don't worry, it's not a big deal. It's just a try. If it fails, there's no loss. Yang Hongwu smiled slightly. He knew that the two girls were worried. He was not a fool. However, he clearly felt that this little girl had a deep relationship with him. Perhaps they were really related by blood. Otherwise, he would never have such a feeling. Therefore, Yang Hongwu was willing to believe in her. Yang Hongwu said again, "You two protect me. I'm going to refine the talisman." After saying that, Yang Hongwu raised his hands, and two blank talisman jades appeared in the void. This was the material Yang Hongwu used to refine the talisman. This talisman jade was a special kind of jade and was very precious. Normally, Yang Hongwu would not use this kind of material to refine the talisman. After all, with his means, the materials used to refine the talisman were only ordinary materials. Chapter 2382. With a thought, Yang Hongwu's hand glowed with a ray of light. Lines of runes appeared in his hand and were imprinted on the talisman jade. Soon, the talisman jade was engraved with dense runes. These runes were the runes on the previous talisman seal. There were many runes, and they were very complicated. However, under Yang Hongwu's engraving, they were very orderly. In a short while, the runes were completely engraved. After the runes were engraved, Yang Hongwu frowned slightly. He used his magic power to guide the power of the law of heaven and earth into the runes. Then, Yang Hongwu activated the runes. The entire rune had become mysterious. Yang Hongwu had successfully refined the talisman seal. Under Yang Hongwu's deliberate concealment, the runes did not attract any vision of heaven and earth. Yang Hongwu knew that this was because he could conceal it. On the other hand, it was because the talisman seal was the sky-stealing, sun-swapping technique. Therefore, it concealed its aura so that the law of heaven and earth could not sense it. Because of this, it did not attract any vision of heaven and earth and the lightning tribulation of the law of heaven and earth. Congratulations. I told you that you could refine this talisman seal. The sky-stealing, sun-swapping talisman is nothing in front of you. You should refine more of them. Give me some too. Anyway, it's not difficult for you to refine this talisman seal, Long Qingqing said. Yang Hongwu was speechless when he heard this. What did she mean by it was not difficult to refine? Refining this talisman seal required a lot of energy. Moreover, he did not have many talisman jades left. Talisman jades were not particularly precious, but they were rare. Ordinary talisman masters did not have many talisman jades. After all, talisman masters who could use talisman jades were very powerful. As for talisman jades, ordinary people had no use for them. In the void, talisman jade veins were very rare. I don't have enough talisman jades, Yang Hongwu said. If I have enough talisman jades, I can refine some. Talisman jades? When Long Qingqing heard this, she took out a small storage bag and handed it to Yang Hongwu. This isn't anything rare. You can have as many as you want. My family has a talisman jade mine. Take these talisman jades and use them as you wish. If it's not enough, I'll get more when I get home. Yang Hongwu took the bag of holding and looked at the talisman jade inside. The corner of his mouth twitched. There were too many talisman jades. The talisman jades in the storage bag were enough for Lin Fan to make talismans for a few hundred years, and he wouldn't be able to finish them all. Okay, but I don't have time now. After I refine these 2 talismans, I have to go to the Divine Realm Canyon to gain control of the Divine Realm. Otherwise, if Zetian takes control of the Divine Realm, I'll be in big trouble, Yang Hongwu said. That's true. There is no hurry to refine the talismans. However, gaining control of the Divine Realm is indeed urgent. But you don't have to worry too much. After all, not everyone can become the master of the Divine Realm. Although Zetian is powerful, it is impossible for him to become the master of the Divine Realm. With his current strength, he is not strong enough to suppress the Divine Realm and become the master of the Divine Realm. If he wants to become the master of the Divine Realm, he has to rely on his own strength to suppress the Divine Realm. Obviously, Zetian's current strength is not enough, unless he can reach a higher level. Hearing Long Qingqing's words, Yang Hongwu was very surprised. How did she know so many things? This was probably not her own ability. Maybe the person behind her was really too powerful. Maybe it was a void overlord, or even an existence that surpassed the void overlord. But if there was really such a strong existence behind her, she probably came here to have fun, right? But what did he have that attracted her? Was it because of the connection between her and his bloodline? Did she also come from that world? Did she also come from the same place? If so, why didn't she seem to have a special bloodline sense for Luyu? Yang Hongwu couldn't figure it out. But now, Yang Hongwu didn't need to think about this. Well, no matter what, let's go to the Divine Realm Canyon now. Yang Hongwu handed the 2 talismans to the 2 women. After receiving the talismans, the 2 women's auras were instantly concealed. What was more surprising was that the 2 women could actually use their magic power. These talismans are more powerful than I thought. I want them too. Refine 2 for me now. After seeing the effects of the 2 talismans, Long Qingqing was very surprised. Then she said, Yang Hongwu was helpless when he heard this. He found that he actually couldn't refuse. Soon, Yang Hongwu refined the 2 talismans and threw them to Long Qingqing. In his heart, he secretly wondered if Long Qingqing had a special secret technique that could make people involuntarily do things according to her wishes. Charm technique. That didn't seem right. Maybe it was a special power of law. However, Lu Yu and Zi Xintong weren't affected. This was also what puzzled Yang Hongwu. But no matter what, Yang Hongwu didn't have time to investigate Long Qingqing's origin. If Long Qingqing could really help him defeat Zi Tian and control the divine realm, it wouldn't be a bad thing. Not bad, not bad. I suspect that only the sky-stealing, sun-swapping talismans refined here can allow you to use your dermic powers. If they are refined elsewhere and used here, they can only conceal your presence, but they cannot allow you to use your dermic powers. So, if possible, it would be good to refine a few more talismans here. Just as they were about to leave, Long Qingqing spoke. When Yang Hongwu heard this, he frowned slightly. In fact, these words were not without reason. Time is tight. As for refining pills, we can slowly refine them in the future. When we control the entire divine realm, we can refine pills here for as long as we want. Yang Hongwu shook his head and said, "That's true. Well, let's go to the divine realm. I'll help you control the divine realm. Otherwise, you'll be nervous and afraid that the divine realm will be controlled by Zitian." After Long Qingqing finished speaking, she walked in front alone. The laws on the crystal bridge seemed to have no effect on her. Previously, she could only use some magic power, but now, the crystal bridge seemed to have no restrictions on her. Not long after, the group arrived at the end of the crystal bridge. Do we really have to believe her? This little girl's origin is very mysterious. Who knows if she has hostility and wants to scheme against us? Zi Xintong was still a little worried. That being said, he had to admit that Long Qingqing was truly a resourceful person. Chapter 2383. Don't worry, she won't. If she wanted to scheme against us, she wouldn't have wasted so much time. Yang Hongwu shook his head. Although Long Qingqing's origin was mysterious, Yang Hongwu was still willing to believe her. Soon, they arrived at the end of the crystal bridge. The scenery of the fascinated canyon fell into everyone's eyes. It was a magnificent and huge canyon. It was magnificent and looked like the work of God. This is the fascinated canyon. Do you see the depths of the canyon? There's a palace there. This palace is the core of the fascinated canyon. In fact, it's the core of the entire deity plane. It's where the divine monument of the deity plane is located. Long Qingqing said, "As long as you get the recognition of the divine monument, you can control the entire deity plane. However, it's not easy to enter the center of the palace. Those who are fated can enter directly, but others have to undergo a test or break through the shackles with their own strength to enter." Deity Plane's temple. Is there a divine monument? Yang Hongwu narrowed his eyes and saw the name of the palace. Temple of Paragon. The 13 deity planes, the fascinated canyon, the place of Paragon. This was the Temple of Paragon. It was an ancient, mysterious, and majestic temple. Whether one could enter it or not depended on one's luck and strength. If one was strong enough, they could force their way in. If one wasn't strong enough, they could also enter if they were fated and recognized. If one wasn't fated and wasn't strong enough, they wouldn't be able to enter. However, if it wasn't a fated person, it would be extremely difficult to forcibly refine the divine steel and the entire 13 divine regions. When the power of the entire 13 divine regions was combined, it would be extremely majestic and powerful. Perhaps only the Void Overlord could reach such a level. Even the Void Overlord didn't have such a strong power to control the entire deity plane. No one knew how strong the creator of the deity plane was. At least, no one in the deity plane had such a strong power to break through the limits of the deity plane's master. Yang Hongwu didn't think that he had such a strong power. As for whether Zitian had reached the level of a Void Overlord, Yang Hongwu didn't think that he could do it. After stepping into the real enchanted canyon, Yang Hongwu felt a powerful devil chi that covered the sky and earth. This was the aura of Zitian, the supreme demon. However, there was still a huge gap between them and the Void Devil Overlord's level. However, the Void Devil Overlord should have already reached this level. Zitian, I didn't expect his strength to have reached such a level. Yang Hongwu took a deep breath. He had to admit that although his strength had improved a lot compared to before, he was still inferior to the current Zetion. The possibility of defeating him was really small. Of course, even though it was not as good as the others, it could still leave easily. After all, Zetion was now very strong, but he couldn't seal off Yang Hongwu's space. In addition, Yang Hongwu's understanding of the space Tao had reached a new level. Therefore, Yang Hongwu was confident that even if he couldn't defeat Zetion, he could escape with the help of the space Tao. An acquaintance is here. Zetion was originally in the Divine Palace, trying to refine the Divine Steel. However, the Divine Steel was too strong and he couldn't refine it. During this period, he couldn't even move the Divine Steel. Logically speaking, he had already controlled a part of the 13 deity planes. It would be much easier for him to refine the Divine Steel and become the master of the 13 deity planes. However, he didn't expect that the Divine Steel wouldn't give him any face. In fact, he had already used up a lot of energy to enter the Divine Palace. If not, he wouldn't be in such a sorry state. Since that was the case, he had to change his way of thinking. Coincidentally, at this moment, his old rival, Yang Hongwu, appeared. However, this person, who had defeated him many times and almost lost his life, didn't have much power now. He hadn't even reached the level of a universe overlord. It was too disappointing. However, even so, he still didn't dare to underestimate Yang Hongwu. If it was so easy to deal with, then how could Yang Hongwu defeat him so easily so many times? The difference in cultivation level might be a huge gap for some people. However, for people like him and Yang Hongwu, the difference in cultivation level was nothing. At a lower cultivation level, killing a super great being was nothing. Although his cultivation level hadn't reached the level of a universe overlord, he could still kill a universe overlord. Moreover, he was now at the level of invincible demon master. He was confident that he could contend against great beings at the level of void, overlord, and void demon master. If he could control the 13 deity planes and obtain the secrets of the deity planes, then he would have enough confidence to achieve the void realm. By then, this part of the void would be under his control. Zetion, we meet again, Yang Hongwu said as he walked out and looked at Zetion. Yes, we meet again. It's a pity that one of us is going to die here today. Is that person going to be you or me? Zetion looked at Yang Hongwu and said, I have to admit that there are many people protecting you. If it weren't for them, you would have died at my hands. However, you have disappointed me. Your cultivation level isn't even a universe overlord. How are you going to compete with me? It seems that the person who is going to die here today is you. When Yang Hongwu heard this, he smiled faintly and said, Don't be so full of yourself. Although your cultivation level is higher than mine, your true strength may not be stronger than mine. Besides, you and I are here for the 13 deity planes. We want to control the 13 deity planes and obtain the pass to the void realm. If I become the controller of the 13 deity planes, my cultivation level will surpass yours. I can't deny that you have such a possibility, but it's actually very unlikely. Besides, do you think I'll give you such a chance? Zetion narrowed his eyes, and his murderous aura began to spread. His original body appeared outside the godly palace. Feeling Zetion's powerful strength, Yang Hongwu couldn't help but narrow his eyes. The two of them looked at each other. In terms of momentum, Zetion's demonic aura soared to the sky. The terrible pressure made Zi Shintong and Liu breathless. Originally, in the deity plane, everyone would be suppressed by the laws and wouldn't be able to exert their full strength. However, in the spirited canyon, it was different. The crystal bridge suppressed one's cultivation level, and one could only use one's physical strength. However, in the spirited canyon, it was different. Here, one could use all of one's strength and cultivation. Originally, there were other great beings in the spirited canyon, who were all universe overlords. However, they were all killed by Zetion after he arrived. Chapter 2384. It's not up to you to decide whether to give it to me or not. Yang Hongwu smiled. He didn't care about Zion's oppressive aura at all. Although Zion's aura was terrifying, it didn't affect Yang Hongwu at all. Yang Hongwu waved his hand and formed a protective shield to protect the two girls. As for Long Qingqing, she didn't seem to be affected by Zion's powerful aura at all. This was what surprised Yang Hongwu the most. Both of you enter my inner world. Zion is very powerful now. I'm afraid I won't be able to take care of both of you if we fight, Yang Hongwu said to the two girls. Okay. The two girls also knew that this was a critical moment. They couldn't afford to make any mistakes. Do you think this is meaningful? Zion said. He didn't move at all, as if he didn't care at all. As long as I kill you, I can still find the people in your inner world. Everyone you care about will die. You're just a loser, Yang Hongwu said. Yang Hongwu, go and refine the godly tablet. I'll block him for you, Long Qingqing said to Yang Hongwu as she stood up. Yang Hongwu was surprised when he heard this. Given Long Qingqing's current power, it seemed that she wasn't even a universe overlord, yet she wanted to go out and block Zion. Even Zion was shocked. A little girl who wasn't even a universe overlord wanted to block him. She was too arrogant. Yang Hongwu, do you think this little girl can block me? Zion said. However, this little girl is very talented. It'll be a pity if she dies like this. No, Long Qingqing, you can't block him. He's very powerful. You're no match for him. Yang Hongwu shook his head. Don't worry. Although I can't kill him, I can block him. Long Qingqing smiled. However, you have to remember that I can only block him for 2 hours. After 2 hours, if you still can't refine the godly tablet, I'll leave. Are you sure? Yang Hongwu frowned slightly. Since Long Qingqing was so confident and said so, Yang Hongwu asked. If it was possible, 2 hours was enough for him to refine the godly tablet. Of course. I'm not stupid enough to fight when I know I'm no match for him, Long Qingqing said. If it's not for some special reason that I can't use my full strength, I can deal with Zion. Yang Hongwu was even more shocked when he heard this. When Zion heard this, he didn't get angry. Instead, he laughed. He stared at Long Qingqing and said, Little girl, you're so arrogant. I'll kill you later, and then Yang Hongwu. She was just a young lady who was not even a universe overlord, yet she was so arrogant. How could Zion not be enraged by her arrogance? Killing him? She must be dreaming. With his current unrivaled devil lord cultivation base, even if 10 unrivaled overlords came, they wouldn't be able to kill him. What confidence did this young lady have to be so arrogant, declaring that she would kill him? Kill me, Zion. If you were a void overlord, you might be able to. However, you're only an invincible demon master now. It's impossible for you to kill me, Long Qingqing said. Besides, your opponent isn't me. It's Yang Hongwu. Once he refines the divine steel, it'll be your time to die. Since you're so confident that you can stop Zion, I hope you're as strong as you are. If you can't defeat him, you can summon me. After Yang Hongwu finished speaking, he leaped up and entered the godly palace. Zion wanted to stop him, but Long Qingqing blocked his way. You're really looking for death. I'll send you on your way. Zion's eyes were filled with a terrifying, murderous intent. Although the little girl in front of him looked very cute, Zion didn't have any pity for her. He wouldn't show any mercy to his enemies. As long as it was his enemy, he would not show any mercy. However, in the face of an invincible demon master, Long Qingqing wasn't afraid at all, even though she wasn't even a universe overlord at her current level of cultivation. However, the moment Zion made his move, Long Qingqing's aura suddenly became terrifying. Her hair stood up, and her eyes became sharp. Her aura changed instantly. At this moment, Long Qingqing's aura kept increasing. In a short time, it had reached the level of an invincible overlord. In the process of fighting against Zion, she was actually on par with him. At this moment, Zion was really stunned. He didn't expect the little girl in front of him to become so powerful and terrifying in such a short time. She actually hid her cultivation level. Was there such a powerful being in the divine domain? More importantly, the little girl in front of him was really young. she probably hadn't even cultivated for 1,000 years. She had such a terrifying cultivation level in less than 1,000 years. What kind of monster was she? However, Zetian wasn't afraid. He looked at Long Qingqing with greed in his eyes. This little girl had a huge secret on her body. As long as he could capture this little girl and find out her secret, then his strength should be able to increase by leaps and bounds. Perhaps, he might even be able to enter the level of Void Devil Master. Therefore, this was very important to Zetian. If he wanted to improve his cultivation level and enter the Void level, it wouldn't be easy. Therefore, as long as there was a chance, Zetian would crazily seize it. Everyone was the same. As long as there was an opportunity to break through, they would seize it at all costs. In fact, Zetian wanted to seize the entire divine domain and become the master of the entire divine domain in order to obtain the opportunity to break through to the level of a void demon master. Demon Slayer, come out. At this moment, Long Qingqing shouted and a battle blade appeared in her hand. This battle blade was much taller than Long Qingqing's body. When she held it in her hand, it looked very strange, but it also looked very harmonious. Long Qingqing's aura was very terrifying. Coupled with that battle blade, even Zetian became a little afraid of her. This battle sword contained a terrifying power. This terrifying power had a great suppressive effect on Zetian. Zetian, didn't you say that you want to kill me? I want to see how powerful the legendary Purple Heaven Great Demon Lord is. I want to see if he can block my demon-slaying saber. If he can't, then you can only blame your bad luck. Of course, if you can die under my demon-slaying saber, it will be your honor. Long Qingqing's eyes flashed with killing intent. She made her move. The Demon Slayer lit up the entire Divine Valley. With one slash, the entire Divine Valley seemed to be split open. In the Divine Palace, Long Qingqing was refining the Divine Steel. However, he also felt Long Qingqing's strength. That slash was too overbearing. Chapter 2385. Although Zetian managed to block the ferocious attack, he was still shocked by the power of the attack. He was injured. Zetian was enraged. Demon blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. The demon blood dripped down and ignited into a dark demon flame. I underestimated you, but it's still not enough. Although you hurt me, it's not a threat to me. You seem to be unable to exert your full strength. You must be under some kind of restriction. Yes, the restriction of time and space. You're not from this time and space. At this moment, Zetian finally understood why he could feel the power from the girl in front of him. It was very special. It turned out that this girl was not from this time and space. That was why she was unable to exert her full strength. I see. You're from the future. At this moment, Zetian laughed. He looked at her and said, if you can fully mobilize your future strength, I really won't be your match. But now, if I want to kill you, I can do it, but it will take some time. In fact, compared to the control of the 13 divine regions and the power of the divine regions, I'm more curious about your power. If I can devour you, control your power, and control the power of time and space, I'll be able to do it. Then, I can become the overlord of the void. You want to control the power of time and space? That's impossible. You can't do it. Although I can't kill you today, I can make you lose everything in the future. I can make you unable to do evil. Long Qingqing said, and once again, she tried to kill Qin Wentian. She waved her saber. The familiar scene appeared again. The same domineering power and the same terrifying saber light. A terrifying power burst forth. Once again, the entire Longing Canyon seemed weak in the face of this tyrannical power. As for Zetian, this time, his entire body became fierce. His eyes were incomparably sharp, and he emitted an incomparably domineering, demonic flame. His body was also enveloped by the devil flames. Immortal demon body, saber. As Zetian shouted, a crack appeared in the void, and a saber appeared. You didn't expect it, did you? It was your power that triggered my power in the future, allowing me to feel how powerful I will be in the future. At this moment, Zetian's figure was even more terrifying and powerful than before. His body was like an invincible existence. It was the power of the Void Demon Master. It was the power of the future Zetion. Long Qingqing's power allowed Zetion to feel a trace of the law of the future. He tore open the river of time and space and joined forces with the future Zetion Demon Master. The endless power of the future's demon Dao came from the river of time and space. Oh no! Long Qingqing's expression changed when she felt the powerful Zetion. She finally realized that she had gotten herself into trouble. She was indeed from the future, and she was Yang Hongwu's daughter. She knew that her father, Yang Hongwu, had played a crucial role in this battle. Although Yang Hongwu had also obtained the God Domain, mastered the power of the God Domain, became a universe overlord, and forced Zetion to retreat, he had also been injured in this battle. This had left behind a hidden danger, which had caused Yang Hongwu's future cultivation to be stuck at the crucial level of a true universe overlord, unable to advance any further. Because of this, he couldn't compete with the future Demon Master, Zetion. He was suppressed by Zetion Demon Master. Above the universe, overlords were the invincible overlords. Above the invincible overlords were the void overlords. At the level of the void, there were even more powerful true overlords. Above the true overlords, there was an unknown level. Originally, Long Qingqing came to this time and space to help her father defeat Zetion. She also wanted to get rid of Zetion, who was a big threat in the future. However, she didn't expect that this time, she would do something wrong with her good intentions. She caused the power of Zetion to be activated until now. This time, she was in big trouble. Zetion was originally much stronger than Yang Hongwu. Now that Zetion had obtained the power of the future, his strength had increased tremendously. In this way, Yang Hongwu's power would not be able to compete with him. In terms of quantity, I'm afraid that I won't be able to compete with him. Wouldn't that be the same as harming my father, Yang Hongwu? If something happened to her father, Yang Hongwu, at this time, it would definitely affect the future. Then, it would also affect her. She might not even exist anymore. At this moment, Long Qingqing was a little confused. However, the moment Long Qingqing was distracted, Zetion took advantage of this flaw and sent Long Qingqing flying with a powerful force. At this moment, Zetion stepped forward and reached out his big hand to grab Long Qingqing. He wanted to grab Long Qingqing in his hand and use her to threaten Yang Hongwu. At this moment, another big hand stretched out and shattered the big hand condensed by Zetion's mana with a punch. Yang Hongwu. At this moment, Yang Hongwu's strength was unfathomable. His eyes were unfathomable, like an endless void, and people couldn't help but fall into it. Yang Hongwu, you've broken through. At this moment, Zetion looked at Yang Hongwu in front of him, and his expression changed drastically. At this moment, he actually couldn't see through Yang Hongwu's strength. What did this mean? It meant that Yang Hongwu's strength had surpassed his. At this moment, Zetion had borrowed the power of the future and reached the level of Void Demon Master. However, at this moment, he couldn't see through Yang Hongwu's strength. What did this mean? It meant that Yang Hongwu's cultivation had surpassed the Void Demon Master. Could it be that he had reached the level of a true overlord? I've broken through. Since Zetion has appeared, why hide? At this moment, Yang Hongwu spoke and pointed with his hand. At this moment, the river of time and space fluctuated. A majestic will descended. This was the will of the future Zetion. At this moment, Zetion was the real Zetion. Although the previous Zetion had the support of the future's power, without the support of the future's imposing will, his strength was far inferior. He couldn't even unleash 1/10,000th of the future Zetion's strength. Yang Hongwu, I didn't expect that you would still be one step ahead of me and reach such a realm. At this moment, Zetion spoke. He looked at Yang Hongwu and sighed in his heart. He and Yang Hongwu were sworn enemies, but they were also close friends. At their level, there was no need for them to risk their lives for anything. All they wanted to do was to pursue a higher realm. Zetion cultivated the supreme demon Dao and wanted to break through to the level of a true devil master. Yang Hanwu wanted to break through to the level of a true overlord. Haha, I'm just one step ahead. The so-called reality is just a dream. What's the difference between reality and illusion? Real is fake, and fake is real. Real is real, and fake is real. This is reality, Yang Hanwu said. Everything became illusory. The entire world also became illusory. Then all of this transformed into a sphere. Within this sphere, there were countless smaller spheres. Within each sphere, there was a void universe. In each void universe, there was a figure. And this ball was in the hands of a person. This person looked at the faintly discernible ball that was constantly changing between real and illusory and sighed endlessly. Just as he sighed, an anxious voice was heard. "Husband, it's not good. Our son said that he was going to break through and reincarnate. He went to the world of the void sword domain." A beautiful woman walked over anxiously. "What? You mean that brat Yang Tianxie went to the void sword domain to recultivate?" Yang Hongwu's face changed when he heard this. In this void, only the sword domain was the most terrifying. He didn't expect that his youngest son, who was also a talented son, would go to that world to recultivate. How could he not be anxious? As he spoke, he hurriedly turned around and left with the beautiful woman. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.